Okay, I'm here now talking about the temple in this other lesson, and I just did the lesson on tabernacle, and to continue or to move over now into the word temple from the Zondervan dictionary again, I'll just connect with the word tabernacle again from the last lesson, and it will help me move over to temple. So in this Zondervan pictorial Bible dictionary, under the word tabernacle, here's what a part of it's saying, which I didn't read from the last lesson. The Kuba possessed an innate sanctity which was only slightly inferior to that of the sacred cultic objects which it housed. So I guess they're dealing with some kind of tent-like structure. It was used as a rallying point, a place of worship, and a locale for the giving of oracles. Since the majority of tents in antiquity were dark in color, the fact that the sacred shrine was a conspicuous red, as in Exodus 25 verse 5, indicates a religious tradition which reaches back to remote antiquity, showing that for so long before Israel set up its first tabernacle as a nation, there were tents being used as temples by people who were not the children of Israel or of the nation of Israel. So that's nothing unique. And so I ask again, as I've asked with many of the sacrificial lessons, why is Israel doing all these things in the same kind of way as the other peoples? Why they don't have anything different? Since their God is unique and their Torah is unique. So shouldn't their Torah instructions be unique? But they're doing all these things just like the other nations are doing it. And while they're doing all these sacrifices the same way and these temples the same way and everything the same way, with certain small differences to make it look Israelite, but they're pretty much the same thing, basically. But they're doing all these things and they get sanctification, and the other nations are unclean while doing the same things, even though they've been doing it longer than the nation of Israel. Other forms of portable tent shrines have been preserved on bas reliefs, notably one from the time of Ramesses II, circa 1301 to 1234 BC, which shows the tent of the divine king placed in the center of the Egyptian military camp. You see that again? Another from the Roman period at Palmyra in Syria depicts a small domed tent erected on the back of a camel. At Sinai, Moses was given a divine revelation concerning the nature, construction, and furnishings of the tabernacle in Exodus 25:40. And they go on to giving the description of the tabernacle in Exodus 26 to 27 and so on. So Moses is given all this stuff. So the God of Israel is different. He's unique. No other God of the earth and of the other nations are like him. He's the God of the Hebrews, or he's the God of Jacob and so on. But he seems to have all the same kinds of basic instructions for his people, like all the other nations does. Where's the uniqueness of Israel, people? That's all I'm trying to say. He never does something very different. Like he has a system or a structure that nobody else can think of on earth, because he is set apart as their God, the same way they should be a set apart people. So their concepts and their practices should be set apart or different, set apart from what other people could think. So then, that's why I say there's a trick here, because the concepts that the other so-called heathen nations use to worship gods in general are the same concepts employed in the scriptures or in the Torah in order for the children of Israel or the Hebrews to worship God. They don't have unique concepts. That means it's coming from just mere mortal men. God isn't giving this stuff, or God's concepts would be different unto the children of Israel. Instead, all the concepts that are being made to come out of the mouth of the God of Israel are the same as the children of Israel, except, like I've told you before, they put some small differences to make it look Israelite. Like the priests in Israel might wear an ephod. But I've told you already, the other people are wearing ephods as well from the other nations in their priesthood systems. It's just that Israel calls their an ephod. The priest might wear a certain looking garment, white or whatever it was. Other nations with their priests are wearing white as well. I think Egyptian priests wore white, but I don't know. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but I think so. And other nations might wear white as well. Other nations, their priests might not wear white, might wear some other color, might feel it needs to reflect more of the colors in nature or something like that. But in basic, they're all wearing some ephod or clothing designed for priestly activities. That's all it means. But Israel, a Johnny come lately, sets up their priesthood and say, we can't let the other nations think that we're the same as them because we're set apart, we're different, so we're going to wear an ephod. They call theirs their garment, their priestly garment, their whatever they call it. We'll call ours ephod, and that will trick them. Nobody will know that this is the same damn thing we're doing. That's I don't know, that just doesn't sound... Anyway, let me run over to the word temple now. From the same, again, Donovan Pictorial Bible Dictionary. Look at what the word temple means. In this edition here on page 830, word temple. From the Hebrew Hekal Bayit, the name given to the complex of buildings in Jerusalem, which was a center of the sacrificial cult for the Hebrews. All right, so basically Bayit is like a house of God for the sacrificial cult for the Hebrews. But they're telling you, though, that in English it's a temple, the same temple that they're calling the dwellings of the other nations in their religious systems. No matter which religions are out there, no matter which nation is doing it, they're using temples. You got Temple of the Egyptians, Temple Göbekli Tepe, all the different temples in India, different places in Mesopotamia. Everywhere you got temples, temples with the Assyrians, temples with the Babylonians, temples everywhere, and Israel has its own temple as well. And some of these places the Torah has been known to float around. So you wonder what's going on right there. Torah has connection to Babylon. Torah is said to be stolen from Kemet. Like, where does the truth really lie? And no matter what the truth is about where it was stolen from or where it came from, the fact is that it's using the concepts of these nations. There's nothing set apart about the Torah once you begin to break it down, unscrew it, and take it apart, and pull out the springs and so on, and see the moving parts inside of the Torah. It looks different on the outside, like a new model car, but it's basically the same as the last one. They just put in a USB feature in it now. A Bluetooth feature, in it. But it's really just the same, and they changed the size of the tires, the rim. Yeah. So temple, and as I looked up quickly, and I'm going to do more lessons on temples, but some of the older temples you can see, like going back even to like the last one I scanned here, 3600 to 3300 BC. I mean, that still falls within Bible times, but certainly you're seeing that temples were around. And people will tell you there are temples before that, thousands of years before that have been found. And I talked about that a long time already. I'll get into it again in the future. And Israel comes on the scene as a Johnny come lately, and they're setting up the same thing. Where is the difference? So if you look at all these ancient temple sites that were destroyed in Göbekli Tepe and different places in Turkey and in India and wherever, that a flood destroyed, whether you want to call it Noah's flood or some other local flood or whatever, however you decide on the flood. But different catastrophes have happened, which the Torah would count as judgment, or people from other nations in their stories might say the gods were angry with us. They are destroyed. Yet what you find as a common part of the lifestyle of these different nations affected by these natural disasters were that they were worshipping in temples and had many, many gods, or at least even one god, doesn't matter, or the one god had many, many names. Like Yahweh himself goes on the many names in scriptures. But then he tells you, they will teach you that Yahweh is his actual name. And then after they say that, then they say, well, Yah is a short form. So now that's two right there. But whatever the big deal is, all these different nations that suffered these catastrophes when the earth was destroyed repeatedly, time and time again. It's one of the things that's shown in common is that they had temples. They had a religious system worshipping a god or many gods, usually. And so for all the many temples, they are destroyed, destroyed, destroyed. And now people are trying to worship these gods today, but with newer temples for the most part. As they're building up new temples, new churches, new buildings, and so on. All the Baal buildings have been abandoned or destroyed, or something like that. The Shiva temples underwater are destroyed, and so on, right? Although some are still around from thousands of years ago. But basically, all of these temple kinds of people have been destroyed, and the judgment for them all is that their ancient wise men and scientists and priests were destroyed and killed by the God, the creator, or the gods who they say brought these catastrophes on them, even though they were heavily immersed in pleasing all these gods with their many temple sacrifices and worshipping and animal sacrifices and so on. But their gods never spare them. Yet the Creator just watches and allows the creation to just destroy them with these weapon-like floods and weapon-like earthquakes. They're doing all these things, and the Creator who made all this functionality in the earth to destroy whatever is on the earth lets the flood, the waters, and so on rise up to destroy the people on the earth who are doing these things. And every time they rebuild themselves, they got to start over to rebuild this religion and to rebuild that. Why? Because the religions were being used, and the gods and the myths and the stories and the temples and the tabernacles were being used to deceive the public. So the Creator keeps wiping them out. That's the way I'm seeing it. Because religion is used to destroy the minds of people, to subjugate people, to hold people down. And the Torah, as far as I'm seeing it now, taking out the screws, is no different. Go huddle yourself into this temple, into this sacrifice, go kill this animal, wipe out the creatures of the earth and go kill. And teach them to do this, and teach them to bow and put their hands together a certain way, and do all this kind of stuff. Teach them to do all this stuff and to worship something outside of themselves. And I'm not saying there's nothing outside of you, because obviously it doesn't seem to me like you made yourself or I made myself. But that which is the Creator seems to have made us and then entered inside of us and lives through us, but still has to be external in some kind of way. But it's that people are making up all these different religions with their temples all over the earth to get you to congregate in a certain place and worship something. And when you get into that worship, you are locked in your mind into believing whatever the group believe in a cult kind of way, even though you say you are holy and even though you say you are free, but you're not mentally free. Like I cut my hair and people are telling me that's not a preacher's haircut. One brother, when I was in the Christian church, he put his hand on my head and tried to grab my hair, couldn't get it because I had a low cut, a low fade and all. That's not even a preacher's haircut and you want to be in the ministry. So they get all these rules to tell you what is wrong in Christianity. Come over into the Hebrew side now. And this is some of the reasons why I started looking into the Torah, because I found some of the Hebrew teachings are just fake and make people very gullible, including myself. So I started to look into it. People cursing me for no beard when I see other Hebrew teachers teaching with no beard and doing very well. But then the others of them are cursing you. You must wear your beard. Long like, a little thing is like a goatee is unrighteous. It must be at least a few inches long. And so they lock you into this stuff, and your life is being torn apart, and they can't heal your life and do nothing, but they pressure you more with guilt from quote unquote God, instead of trying to bring healing into you, into your life. Families are being torn apart. Jobs are slipping away. You're getting ready to go on FEMA camp, some of us say. U.S. ordering all kinds of massive amounts of astronomical amount of bullets that they've never ordered one time before. All kinds of quick makeshift kind of, what they call it, caskets stacked up all over the U.S. or wherever they are and so on. GMO foods we're eating. We're being hit medically with the pharmaceutical special drugs that's supposed to be medicine and so on, instead of just eating the trees, the fruit from the trees that grows from the earth like the Creator told us and so on. All kinds of things are hitting us. All the new Wi-Fi, 5G stuff coming that they said is going to help kill us faster. All kinds of mind control stuff out there and whatever, an army is getting ready to war and to whatever. All these stuff are going on, and people are telling you your beard isn't long enough and your hair is too short and you didn't come to the the Sabbath meeting. I just don't get the purpose of religion. And so there's a sort of subjugation with religious dogma and teaching, where people seem to lose their way and they become something that is not them. So they tell you what is the book, because they can't taught you from their heart, so they taught you from the book. And notice that's exactly what happened with the serpent in the Garden of Eden. All right, well, I'm going to talk about the Garden of Eden in another lesson called absorption. Look for that one coming. But basically, their nature was changed by eating from the fruit. You can't talk from your nature anymore. You can't talk from your nature anymore. And that's it. You can't talk from your nature anymore, from what is naturally a part of you, because the Creator, the Torah says that you believe, formed man of the dust of the ground and blew breath into him, and man became a living soul. So he entered into the man. So your nature is of God, or your nature is godly. Before you ever read that which is a Bible, or that which is a Torah, a book of Torah, or a book of the law, or read from a scrolls, or know the word scrolls, that which is God is inside of you, because he entered inside the man. So Adam, all he had to do was just explore with the godness that's inside of him, and explore the other godness that he sees in creation that made everything, and find out about the Creator and about what the Creator did. Because the Creator is inside of the man, and the man now has the power to explore, the capacity to explore, and to understand what he is exploring. That's why now it says, and he brought the animals, told him to name all the animals. Why? Because Adam was exploring, which means mankind was exploring. And as he saw an animal, he said, this animal looks like this, it jumps like that, it moves like this, or whatever. So he made up a word and named the animal according to that word. He was exploring. It wasn't magic. That's why sea life is called sea life, because those kind of sea creatures live in the sea and not on land. So they come up with a word, a term that lets you know that they belong in the sea. Fish. Sea life, sea creatures. You see? Because they're exploring and they realize, wait, something is jumping up out of the water and jumping back in. And eventually they call it fish. So when you hear fish, you know you're not normally going to see that on land, until somebody starts to kill them and eat them. So now if I continue with the temple from this dictionary, this ritual of sacrifices was the central external service of the ancient people of God and the unifying factor of their religion, at least in Old Testament times. It's the central external service of these people and the unifying factor of their religion. But Adam did not need any of this stuff, like a religion, to be unified with Eve or with the other people around him. He never read from a book. He never quoted stuff. All he needed was inside of him. All he needed was inside of him. That's why when the serpent came, they found it so strange. That's why Eve was listening, because he seems like he is well learned. That's why I've told you all along the serpent was a person or people that was teaching, religiously teaching in the garden, and teaching them something else that the Creator did not want them to know experientially. Right? Now you're going to enter into problems, but what the story is trying to tell you is that they ended up going the wrong way. They lost their way. That's what the story is really saying. They lost their way. And so now, as another precept, right there, everything else that comes after mankind, quote unquote, fell or lost their way, if that's really what happened, that mankind lost its way, it's just basically letting you know that if we have lost our way, how can anybody, Noah, Abraham, Moses, anybody, the prophets, come and tell you the way when they themselves are cradled in a whole system of being lost? If the Creator showed up when things were good, pristine conditions, and said to Adam, eat this and eat that and so on, and you'll be all right, and name the animals and so on, then in order to restore life, doesn't the Creator have to come back? Because that would seem to me to be the real kind of way to tell the truth of restoration, is that the Creator shows up again. Because when I see people huddling around a table studying Torah or studying the Bible in the Christian church or the New Testament or whatever holy books they're studying, eventually death and warring and fighting goes on. And usually the people in a worldwide kind of way who are at the top of these religions that have official holy books, usually those people are the ones bringing the mass carnage and dropping bombs on people and killing and taking over lands and so on in the name of these religions, and they're the ones who control these books and allow the book to be published and distributed worldwide. And they have the power to distribute and market the books. And they control the ancient manuscripts for these books as well. And you're telling me something isn't wrong with the book? Adam never read from one of these stuff. Adam never read from one of these stuff. If Adam was still living now, like if he fell but he survived, he probably couldn't get a hold of one of these books. I mean, the original manuscripts. They'd have barred him from it. Because he would know the truth that, if Adam would rise up from the grave now, if he was real, because maybe Adam just means mankind was made, who knows? But if Adam would rise up from the grave now and say, let me see one of those ancient scrolls that you have in a glass case, he'd be like, first of all, I don't know which language that is, and if you're telling me this is what it says, how it started and whatever, They would keep him away from it. Because Adam would tell the truth. How do I know that? Because the truth that we call the truth now brings war and destruction and famine and disease. Look across the world. And now the damage is moving into North America, and you thought it was always over there with the war in the Middle East, and now people are fearful that now it's coming over here to North America, and you're biting your nails wondering where the hell you're going to go. Why? Because religion is moving across the earth. That is the downfall of man. And so when you deal with temple and religion and so on, it seems to me when I read that whenever these religions and temples rose in the ancient past, the earth keeps destroying life on earth as a way to purge out that stuff. But man keeps rebuilding them. When he finds back the stuff, he rebuilds it. I wonder what these people were doing. It looks like some kind of temple or something like that, and then they find some inscription on the stone, so they read it and figure out how to reread it and learn the language and whatever, decodify stuff, and say, oh, this is what they were doing, and it made them so great. And then they build it again. And creation just keeps wiping them out all again. And creation just keeps wiping them out all again. Here we are now we're going downhill again. Societies are going down again. Because religion has taken over the earth. 1/3 of the earth is Islam, 1/3 for Christianity and so on. The Abrahamic religions are running the earth, so tell me why you read a Torah book. The Abrahamic religions are running the earth, so tell me why you read a Torah book. Now, look at this under the word temple again from the Zondervan Pictorial Dictionary. Most ancient religions had temples. You see that? So this was nothing unique to Israel. There were temples there even before there was an Israel, so why would Israel come up and do the same thing? Temple found under the sea in India. I don't know if it's the South Indian Ocean or wherever, but look it up online. Temple found buried, temple to Shiva, buried underwater. And if you see the greatness of this structure, why would their gods want to destroy them? Why would Shiva, as they call it, want to destroy them, and they're serving him and worshiping him? Or why would God want to destroy them? Or the God of Israel, or whoever you call the main God. Let's just call him here the Creator. Why? Is that a blessing to destroy all these temples for these people who are in their religious fervency? Is that a blessing? Or maybe it's like it is seen as something that is questionable or wrong or dangerous to mankind. So natural disasters happen to break them down, because that breaking down and flood for these different temples and different people groups doing this stuff is not a blessing. The stuff happening to them is not a blessing. So somehow we have been taught the wrong things about what we call God. And it's been occurring to me lately in my mind like the Hebrews, like some people are kind of wondering about this. Like some people, I know what time it is. Some of you just want me to shut up, and others are like, this brother makes some good points, but we can't really buy into what he's saying because it's kind of scary. And first, we need to test him and see how far he will go. Does he make sense? Like maybe he'll make 2 or 3 videos on this, and it sounds good on these issues, but after he makes like 20 more videos, will it still sound good, like it connects together? Or will it start to show like it doesn't make any sense? Or if we just say, okay, let's start to shift our Torah belief a little bit and question our Torah a little bit more. What if I come to the place like him and find out something is wrong? Then what do? I'm hopeless. And we need this Torah to believe that we're Israelites so we can be saved from the white man. So we can be saved from America. Don't you get it? When did your Torah ever save you from the white man? When did it ever save you from the conquistadors, from the British, from everybody else? When did it save you? When did it save you? The Torah has never saved you. Okay, you say, well, but it saved our ancients. That's in a book. And yes, you see inscriptions and so on. But when did it really save you? Israel has not been saved. To get some salvation because you beat a certain army in ancient times that the Bible talks about, and 20 years later you're back under the power of some Mesopotamian king in the book of Judges, and somebody else has to come up and save you, Othniel, or somebody else has to come and save you. That's not salvation. If you get free now, and in 20 years later you're back in it before you even die, and you're watching your children grow up in that, and then after 10 years you get delivered again, 15 years later, you're back under the Chinese or somebody else, and they're knocking your dome in for another 50 years, and you go on like that, and then your children get free at the end of their lives, and then in 20 more years, you're back, their children are back into captivity under somebody else. It's like, where's the freedom in that while you're reading the Torah? And your great children ahead of you will be like, I got to still keep reading the Torah because if my mother that was living in 2018 would ever get up back out of the grave, or my dad who was running an Israelite camp gets up out of the grave and seeing that I'm not reading the Torah anymore, I mean, that would be so shameful. They would be so angry. You're holding on to a book that has never proven itself to save you. I'm not saying throw your book away. I'm just saying think, rethink. If you're going to read the Torah, it must work for you. Whatever you are doing, it has to work for you. It has to work for you. And look how short-lived the Israelite empire was. But if you look at like the Cushites or the Egyptians, look how long like even the Egyptian empire lasted. It took so long before it could be taken down. And Israel, with all its power of the Torah, was up and down in a flash. And the glory of Egypt is so strong that even after it's been taken down and taken over by other people living there today who are not Egyptians, Egypt still shows its glory, so people are taking plane flights of their hard-earned money to go over there and see it all the time. In a more important way than you go to see Israel right now. To go see where Jesus walked or something like that. Egypt carries more weight than Israel right now. When you go to Israel now, it's more a religious kind of trip. But when you go to Egypt, from what I understand, because I've never been there, people are looking for truth, searching for truth of the ancient past, truth that happened even before there was a nation of Israel or a Hebrew Israelite that lived in the Old Testament times. Sure, you might want to know about Israelites in the Old Testament and so on, and know where this one walked and whatever. But you cannot seem to do that without Egypt. But you can come away with a whole lot more knowledge of ancient Egypt and its power and its glory if you never consider Israel. Because Israel had a relatively short time span in terms of interacting with ancient Egypt. Right? But ancient Egypt seems to have been around much longer, a much longer time. And the glory of the fallen Egyptian empire is still so strong today that when you look at Egypt today, just in books alone, or if you're one of those who are able to go and see it for your eyes, the wonder and the glory of it hits you in the face so much that you will never forget it. such wonder, even how they said the pyramids were built, and look how many people have tried to figure that stuff out. That seems like the glory of Eden to me. Especially when you understand that Egypt is dry right now, but would have been in a more fertile place originally. So how do you know Egypt was not where Eden was originally? Because if the earth has gone under many cataclysmic kind of episodes and covered over stuff and Sahara dried up and so on, how do you know Egyptians were not first in Eden? And that's what Eden was talking about. How do you know? But they had to rebuild themselves later on under a cursed, parched kind of dried up, desert looking kind of place. Because Eden was destroyed. How do you know? So it goes on here. Most ancient religions had temples. Indeed, the Canaanite temples found at Megiddo and Hazor are not unlike that of the Hebrews in ground plan. That means the plan of how it was mapped out, laid out, and so on, and structured, were the same of the Canaanite temples. The Israelite temples were like that. Again, I ask the question, why is this God of Israel not unique in the way he gives his instructions to the Hebrew Israelites of God? The same thing that the Canaanites are doing, the same thing anyway. They are not set apart. Everything is the same way. So somebody in a Canaanite temple, somebody in a temple in India, somebody in a temple in some other part of Mesopotamia or Persia or anywhere can come and visit and walk through. And yes, certain little small things will look different and so on. But there's not enough there for them to say, this is radically different. It's just the same basic plan, I should say. The same in the basics of it. Nothing is different to say, wow, the moment I see this stuff and then even walking through it, I feel like I'm walking in heaven. I feel like I'm walking in a domain that is by the Creator, that the mind of the Canaanite could not conceptualize. The mind of the Egyptian in their Egyptian temples could not conceptualize. The mind of the Persians or the Babylonians or the Chaldeans could not conceptualize to make their temples like this. But it's the same ground plan because the mind of the Creator did not conceptualize that which made the Israelite temples. Nothing in the Israelite temples made one be spirited away. Otherwise, every time you went into an Israelite temple, even as a visitor, you should feel like you are Moses upon Mount Sinai, shaking and rumbling and light and so on. But there's nothing. Romans take over Jerusalem temple and they can run in there saying, hey, where's your God? We don't see your idol God. So they're saying the God is invisible. They just see a few cutleries or whatever they see near the cauldron or whatever, the vase and so on. They don't really see any. It just looks like another temple. The main thing to them that was different was that there was no idol inside there. The Romans are like, where's your idol? Where's your God? That sounds like a trick story to me too, but anyway. Because the Romans would have already known that the God of the Hebrews was not visible because they knew all that stuff. They wrote the damn Bible for us. Or they put it together, I should say. They bound it, the Romans. And two, they knew Israelite history long enough because some of the Roman leaders, like the Caesars and the Herods and so on, had learned the Torah and were skilled in the law. Like Paul said to Agrippa, I know you're skillful with it. So they knew it very well. So how come they're expecting to see an Israelite God as an idol inside the temple in Jerusalem? It's a lie, it's a trick. If they're telling you they were shocked to see no Israelite God inside the temple, they're lying to you because they knew the God of the Israelites could not be seen sitting in a temple or sitting anywhere because he's unseeable. There are many tricks, many deceptions. So you got to take apart the Torah, get your screwdriver, take it apart. What if a page in Chronicles was slipped into Genesis chapter 3? Does that make anything different about the Torah? What if you take a story from the book of Exodus and slip it into the book of Malachi? Does it make the Torah come out different? The rearrangement of information take the thing apart, put it back together, jumble it up, so on, whatever, put it back properly at the end the way it's given to you, and see if anything shows up different. Take the Torah apart to find the truth, because too many lies have been given to us. And maybe you don't mean to work against your Torah, but you must investigate and search. So you must put things out of place. When you search, you jumble things up. You don't want them to normally look like that, but in order to search for what you are looking for, what you need to find, you must jumble stuff up or move them out of place. Like when you're looking for your keys and you go in this drawer, I wonder where I left the keys, and you pull up stuff and your drawer was all nice, but you jumble it around, move. Why? Because you're looking for stuff. Your car trunk, oh, where did I put that stuff? You jumble everything in your car trunk. Man, I got to fix up this stuff. I don't have time. I'll fix it up back on the weekend. But you jumble up your car trunk because you're looking for one small item. In your house, you jumble up stuff. You move this, you move that. You move the couch, you move whatever, because you're looking for stuff. But don't you put it back later? Well, you can put back your Torah concepts the same way they're given to you and the Torah writing, but why not in a search for truth, Hebrew Israelite in captivity? Ransack the Torah and pull it out of place to find something you are looking for that's more valuable than a supposed deception that I'm telling you that you are under. You are blind and destroyed because you refuse to treat the book like another book of the other gods, of the other religions. You think your book is God. Your book is not God. Or Adam would have been talking to the book. Adam would have been reading from the book. Adam would have been going to a temple. Adam did not go to a temple. I told you already, Genesis chapter 3, 8 and 9 shows that Adam did not enter into a temple to go and talk with the Creator. The Creator approached him instead of him going to a temple to meet with God. Hello.